Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of analysis with scale degrees. Now, we've talked about key signatures, we've talked about keys, but we haven't talked about chords. We've yet to go into a great number of subjects. So this exercise has been made to use the information we have thus far. So what I want you to do is go on to MuseScore.com, and they have this huge sheet music website. Ability to download. They have this huge database of music you can just download and open. So I found, for example, Fur-Elise, and it was written by Beethoven, if you didn't know that. And maybe you didn't know. I don't know. It's a really famous piece, though. And so what it is I want you to go in, I want you to get a piece from this website, and I want you to identify the key. If it's not in the name, sometimes it's in the name, but identify the key. Pick a song that's reasonable, one that doesn't modulate key or sound really crazy. Don't pick songs that sound jazzy. Pick something that sounds really classical for now, something that's a really straightforward thing to sort of look at. You might be looking at this and saying this is not that straightforward, but your exercise, your only job is going to be, I want you to identify the key. So you go through and just use what knowledge you have now to identify the key with scales. We haven't talked about chords, but we have a couple things to clue us in. For example, I notice here that we have all naturals. So there's no shaps, no sharps, and no flats. So I say that's interesting. We see some notation of some sharps, but we by far see an A everywhere. And we notice that the next most common note. So to identify a key at this stage in your knowledge, a really easy way is you look at your most common note. This doesn't always work, but I would look at the chords, but we haven't talked about chords yet. So we look at our most common note. We say, oh, it's A, and that lines up with our key signature of A natural, right? And then we say, well, does it use the E very much? Because an E is a fifth away. So you look for whatever the 5 is. If you're dealing with a tonal piece of music, this will be a pretty okay way to look at things. So you say A, and I look around and say, hey, here's an E. They are using E. And so I say, okay, this, and then we have a G sharp. And we look at that and we say, well, that's the same as the harmonic minor scale. So it makes sense to notate it in here. This D sharp sort of that's a different deal. So we can safely write A minor. There's a couple other reasons why, but it's A minor. And if pick a piece that's well known, then you can go look it up and check, right? So what I want you to do after you find it is identify whatever the 1 is, the tonic. And so we say, oh, the tonic, that's A, because it's A minor. So I want you to go through, find every single A, find them all, and put a 1 over it. And so this isn't to symbolize the 1 of the scale. That's how we determine what we were going to do, because there might be a key change. And for Elise, there actually is. We go from A minor to F major for a little bit. And I'll include this file along with the workbook as an example so you can go through and look at it. I make a couple of notes of like some things that are in here. I don't note everything, but I go through. I might have missed an A here or there, but if there's an A, put a 1 over it. So if it's a chord and you go, oh my gosh, it's like a chord, like I can't do chords yet. Just if there's an A in that chord, put a 1 over it. That's all you got to do. There's one spot where you use something called pedal point, and there's just A's everywhere over here. I'm not going to put a 1 over every single one of those. So, but if we listen to it, the point of this exercise, in order to get something out of it, because if you just go over that, you'll just get really good at reading music fast, which is a blessing, but it's not what we want. We want intuitive understanding of the 1. If you got it right, if it truly is the 1 and you picked a tonal piece, it will have a particular level of importance in the sound. It'll sound like every time you hit the 1, it'll be nice. It'll sound like you have arrived somewhere. So, and then when you don't hit the 1, if there's an absence of a 1, it should not sound done. Now you'll see 1s interspersed, like here it's sort of interspersed, but you'll notice that this rule is generally followed. Notice how when you listen to the 1 in this piece of music, because you can't call this a track because it's classical music. So in this piece, as you listen to it or composition, we will just notice the comfortable feeling that goes along with 1. And when it's not there, we don't feel like we're quite settled. And so I'll play just a little bit of it. So a way to show you this a little more clearly is if I just stop anywhere that it's not a 1. So if we were to go back to the beginning and just like stop before we hit that 1, it's like Oh, that did not sound done at all. But if I go all the way to the 1, like, oh, that was a phrase. It sounds nice. Like, it makes sense. There's a rhythmic things that come into play here too. But if I were to stop in the middle here, because this sounded nice too, right? If we stop right here, but if I stop over there, it will sound less done than if I stop over here. And so we say, oh, that does sound pretty done, but not nearly as done as over here. And so that's what we're aiming for. We're looking at these sorts of things. And so we say, oh, there's some repetition, goes through, plays it a couple times. Now we notice over here, there is an absence of the number 1. Oh no, I got one. It's over here. I missed that one though. You hit Control T, by the way, to do that. So you hover over it, it'll add system text. That's what it's called. So if we like play over here, I want you to notice that these notes have a particular quality of strength as they're pulling. It just doesn't sound done. We have this we are compelled to keep listening until we reach this one way over here. That's the power of the 1. So I'll just play this section for you and show you. I'll stop in the middle and it'll be very unsettling. It's like, oh, that wasn't done. That was doing something. And if we look here, this is actually an E, which is the 5th, right? I was going to have you notate all the 5s, but then it would be more like a harmonic analysis. And if any key changes happen in the song, it'll get confusing. So we're just looking for the 1. We're just looking for the way the A changes. Because there is a key change in this song. And so something interesting will happen when we reach it. But if I let it play out to the end, it'll sound done. So all of this is just skillful use of other chord tones to pull to this 1. See, he can just pull that out forever. If you've ever gone to a comedy performance in music, it's sort of a weird thing. I've actually been to a number of them. There's always, the piano player will always play this and just go da na 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 na. That was the wrong notes, but you get it. They'll go on and on and on and on and on until the audience realizes they're not going to stop doing that. And it takes a long time. It just shows how compelling not going here is, not going to the 1. You want to go there. So we go through this and then we reach a key change. This means that, and I do a little bit of explanation on like, hey, it's probably F, because we notice here, hey, there's a B flat and we're focusing around the F major chord a ton. And so we're moving around in the key of F for a little while. But if we listen, the 1 loses its power. F actually assumes it. But according to our exercise, we're just doing the original key. So we just pay attention to, now we notice, hey, the 1 is shifted. It's no longer on what used to be 1. So if I just play this, the transition happens right here. So that's what's going down. And if we were to stop it on this, it would actually sound quite okay. We've arrived at a new 1. Dun-dun. That one wasn't quite as nice because there's some other things that are going on there, but it is shifted to this F. The 1 is now playing a different role from the previous key, right? And so we go through, and there's one other spot I'd like to point out to you. Here, this spot, this is called pedal point composition. If you go into my MIDI music theory series or the other music theory series, which doesn't go into, it's not academic at all. The last video 80, I believe it's just in the MIDI series, talks about pedal point. And he uses it here. And what it is, I'm not going to write 1 over all these. I just sort of ignore the pedal point composition, but it provides a really neat effect. I do, however, make note of the ones in the, what is that? The right hand. So there's a bunch of nifty stuff here. That's harmony 2 stuff. So we go through, we make more notes of the 1s, and by the end, we've gained some new knowledge about the 1s. So this is just my example of what I'd like you to do with a different piece of music. If you get confused about the key, don't be afraid to look it up. This stuff is weird and hard to do at first if you're not used to doing it. It's just the way it is, just the learning process. If you play piano, like I play piano, I can actually play the song on an actual piano. I'd have to practice a little bit, but this is not a hard song. So that helps a tremendous amount. So I recommend learning piano too. But if you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.